Seat cushions. They're something that we all need. They're something that we've all bought from time to time, but I don't think any of you who are watching today have ever spent $24,000 on seat cushions. I mean, if you did, good for you. You've probably got a lot more money than I or most people do, but this is what the government of Canada under Justin Trudeau recently did. They recently bought 86 seat cushions for the Canadian Embassy in Mexico at a price tag of $24,000 or about $280 per seat cushion. Now, I actually looked for seat cushions earlier this year at Walmart, and the cheapest ones I could find were like $20 a piece, and even then I was like, ooh, I don't know if I want to spend that much on seat cushions. The point I'm trying to make is that this is obviously an unacceptable expense using tax dollars. It's something that none of you would find reasonable, but the excuse that the government under Justin Trudeau is giving for this purchase is that they procured these products, these seat cushions, at $280 a piece from a Canadian company, and therefore it's going to create jobs. Now, I think it was the Canadian Taxpayers Federation that actually uncovered this expense, and in the news story where they were talking about it, the CTF actually made this point that I think is really salient, and that is that the goal of procurement should be to get the best value for tax dollars. Now, when I was a cabinet minister under Prime Minister Stephen Harper, and even today, you get, as a member of parliament, you get special interest groups, lobby groups, bureaucrats, all sorts of different people coming into your office trying to make an argument that procurement or purchasing of assets using tax dollars should have all sorts of different competing policy priorities, like creating jobs or building up an industry or whatnot. Now, some of these objectives are laudable, but I think what the Canadian Taxpayer Federation, the point they made here is absolutely salient, and that is that the first goal of procurement should be to get the things that Canadians need at the best possible value or price. And if you can get some of these other things in the mix, these other policy objectives, great, but that value for money objective should be placed first and foremost. And I guess that's really, the difference between liberals and conservatives. There's this sense that the government can use tax dollars to create jobs and economic growth. Now, where I would start at a very macro level is that, and where I would argue is that the first priority of government should be to create the foundation in which private sector investment can happen. So that's things like lowering taxes, making sure that the regulatory environment isn't so complex that industry does not want to invest in the country, while protecting Canadians' health and safety and being a good steward of tax dollars. So where Justin Trudeau has failed on this point is that he has actually created a lot of complexity in the industrial environment in Canada over the last couple of years. He's created a lot of regulations and regulatory uncertainty. I'm thinking specifically of the natural resource sector. We've seen a lot of decline in investment in this sector because he's changed the environmental review process so many times. He's put in place a tanker ban. He's created a lot of uncertainty for investment without really any sort of outcome for it. And that's what creates a loss of jobs. Also, increasing taxes, right? I mean, he's put in place the carbon tax. He's increased small business taxes. He's increased payroll taxes. And for what, right? When I was in government under Prime Minister Harper, our former Conservative government, we actually brought the federal tax burden down to its lowest level in over 50 years. And we actually saw government revenue increase. And that, to me, shows that if you create the conditions for economic growth through smart public policy, political stability, regulatory certainty, lower taxes, private sector investment will come and invest and therefore create jobs in Canada. And that's really the opposite of what we've seen in Canada. And then you've got these $24,000 seat cushions. So instead of being focused on creating the conditions for business to grow, they're saying, okay, well, the only way for us to create jobs in Canada is to use procurement to, at grossly inflated prices, using the CTF, or the Canadian Taxpayer Federation's words, to create jobs. And I just can't buy that. Now, politicians of all political stripe have failed at this over the years, but I think going forward into the 2019 election, what is going to be really important for my party, and I know my party leader, Andrew Scheer, is really focused on this, is making sure that the first objective of government is to create the conditions for economic growth that I just talked about, but also to ensure that when we are talking about procurement, that we are getting the best value for money, and that we're not paying grossly inflated prices for things that make no sense. $280 for a seat cushion is kind of crazy in my books. So again, this is something I just wanted to bring to your attention. Make sure that you comment on this. Many of you have been commenting on my videos. We certainly have been reviewing that feedback, especially the video that I did the other day asking for policy feedback. That's been great. But in the meantime, we're going to keep working hard for you. Don't hesitate to speak up on these issues. The Liberal government needs to understand that we find these expenditures really unacceptable. And then the job of my party, of course, is to make sure that we're putting in place alternative policies, hopefully when we form government in 2019, which both prevent these types of expenditures and also ensure that, again, we're moving in the opposite direction, that we're creating the conditions for economic growth by getting out of the way of industry. And just for posterity's sake, my seat cushion is this stack of paper because I'm too short to be seen on the camera, but I think this costs like $2. Working hard for you in Calgary. Have a great day.